Hello everyone, welcome to today's Snack and Learn webinar. Thank you for joining us today. Just some housekeeping items before we get started. The presentation slides are available to download in the control panel in the handout box. These are as PDF. And also there will be time for question and answers. If you can log your questions in the question box on the control panel, and we will address these questions at the end of the presentation. So I would hand it over to Jens and Jørn to start the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So thank you for joining us today. Today we will talk about defining the optimal service level for stormwater handling in Denmark. If you shift, Jens. Just a brief introduction to ourselves. My name is Jørn Torp Pedersen. I'm a Ph.D. of physical geography and I function as technical director in WSP in Copenhagen, Denmark. And I have been with the company now for 12 years.
And my name is Jens Toke, and I'm a project manager, and I've been with WSP for 8 years, and we're both in the same department of climate adaptation and urban development in Copenhagen.
So a little bit about the agenda for today. First, we will give you a background with the Danish legislation and the method for defining the optimal service level. That will be presented by me. Then Jens will take over with a case study from the Helsingør city center, and we will wrap it up with some key takeaways before we have a Q&A session at the end of the day. So whenever you do a climate adaptation measure or solution, one of the key questions to ask yourself is, to which service level must this solution be dimensioned? That is, which return period should we use for our dimension criteria? And that goes for stormwater handling or for sea defense or whatever kind of climate adaptation measure you are looking at. And in Denmark, for sewage system, we have a mandatory service level that the utility company must meet for a return period for 5 years for rainwater system and 10 years for combined system. But that is the minimum mandatory service level. We may also find an optimal service level that is higher than these two service levels. So which service level would be the optimal for stormwater handling? So in 2022, the Danish Ministry of Environment implemented a new act on how to define the service level for cloudburst. And that is defined as a service level about T5 and T10. And this act is followed by a very detailed guidance report that described the method. And I will go through this guidance report in a few steps in a minute, and it is very complicated and very detailed, and I will definitely cut a few corners in order to get the overall point out to you. The overall principle behind this act is that the obtained damage reduction must be balanced by the cost of implementing measure in a socio-economic cost-benefit analysis. So could you switch again? So this calculation must be done in a 7 steps approach, and I will go through each of these steps over the next 5 or 10 minutes. So could you shift? So the first step is to do the catchment delineation. Which catchment are we actually looking at? And inside of this catchment, the service level or the raised service level for cloudburst management must be the same for all the projects that are defined within this catchment. And the catchment area is defined in such a way that any project that we do inside this catchment will not affect the water balance either upstream nor downstream of the catchment area. So once we have defined this catchment area, we will do a flood mapping in order to figure out what is the likelihood of flooding today as the system is today. And these mapping must be done with a combined 1D, 2D model, and in Danish context, that's most often done with a Mike flood model, where we combine a sewer system model in Mike urban with a terrain model in a Mike 21. And we have to do the floodings for at least 5 return periods without these climate adaptation to figure out what is the risk today. And as we do that, we will also look into what kind of valuables are located within this catchment area. So we combine the risk, the likelihood of flooding, that is the flooding with all these different return periods, with the values that are damaged by these flooding. So for example, if we have a 12-year return period today, that corresponds to a 5-year return period 100 years from now, and the damages by flooding when this occur is in this case 15 million Danish crown. You have to divide by approximately 7 or 8 in order to get to euros or US dollars. So once we have done that for all these return periods, we will also consider that, for example, the 100-year event costs a lot of money when there's a lot of damage whenever this occurs, but it occurs quite seldom. So we have to divide the damages by the return period in order to get to the risk density curve that you see on your right-hand side. And with this risk density curve, we can estimate the estimated annual damage today, in this case, almost 4 million Danish kroner per year, rising to almost 10 million Danish kroner per year by the end of the century or in 100 years from now. So could you switch again, Jens? So now that we have mapped the risk with the system as it looks today, we will start implementing climate adaptation solutions or measures into the model. And we will do that for a number of different service levels. For example, if we have a service level of T20, that is the green map that you're looking at here. And in the lower left corner, you will see the corresponding damage by flooding in million Danish kroner per year for example, a service level of 20 years. And you see that if we have a return period of less than 20 years, there will be no damages. At 20 years, exactly no damages. And once you exceed, or the rain event exceed a 20-year event, you will have damages for example, for a T50 years event or a T100 year event. Also, these flood mapping must be performed with the same 1D, 2D model, but all the solution must be built into the model. So we can estimate the estimated annual damage if we don't have any climate adaptation measured in our system. If we do the mandatory climate adaptation to a T10-year event, that is all the green numbers here. And if we do this enhanced service level for cloud burst management, for example, for a T20 years event, T50 years event, or a T100 year event. And with those in mind, we can calculate the damages over a 100 period in million Danish kroner per 100 year. So that is the cost of damages, and we may also look at the cost of climate adaptation. If we do the mandatory climate adaptation to a 10-year event, it will cost approximately 60 million Danish kroner. If we do it to a 20-year event, it will cost 64.7 million kroner. For a 50 years event, almost 70 million kroner. And we can look at what is the cost beyond the mandatory service level at 10-12 at T return period at 10 years. And if we subtract these two, the damage reduction minus the cost of measures, we will find the net present value for these different climate adaptation solution on these different service levels. So by that, we can do this curve where we find the highest net present value, that is the damage reduction minus the cost of measures. And for the example that I showed you here, which is for Helsingør, that Jens will come back to in a minute, we see that the curve is quite flat. Actually, we have the optimum at a T50 years event, but it could also be a T20 year event or a T75 year event, for example, because this curve is quite flat, so the optimum is not very well defined.
Thank you, Jørn. this leads me to the case study of Helsingør, where we actually are implementing this service level. And we are in Denmark, as shown here. And if we zoom in a little bit, we see Helsingør is in the northern part of Zealand, north of Copenhagen. And this project is in the city center of Helsingør. And this is where, just to give you some background, this is where Kronborg, Hamlet's castle, is located. And it's a quite small city, more like a town of 50,000 people. And it's a really old city, so it was established in year 1200, and the oldest house in this project area is from 1577. So we have some, we have to take care that this is in a really old city center. So to give you some project background, this is a collaboration project between the municipality and the utility company. And we, WSP, we're working together with Jørn landscape architects and Nordsyn, who are experts in district heating. So we have completed the early design phases, and we're now in the process of detailed design. And our scope is a lot, but to give you some info here, we're doing the hydraulic modeling, some traffic planning, detailed design of pipes and concrete and water treatment. So this project involves more than around 50 colleagues in WSP. So it's for us a quite big project. And we are expected to start digging in April 25, and it's a long period of this project will take until 2036 before it's completed. So it's it's actually 3 projects in one. So one part is what Jørn told you about, is the climate adaptation project, where we are removing the rainwater. We're trying to adapt the city center to future rain events. So we're removing as much rainwater as we can from the combined sewage system, which is there today. And we're also trying to reduce the overflow of sewage water to the ocean. And then this project is collaboration. Yeah, so the first thing, the climate adaptation, that's the utility company. And then the municipality, they are working together with the utilities. So they want to improve the surfacing materials and the quality of the streets. So they're replacing the whole pavements of the city, making it better for pedestrians, and also making a change, making it less traffic, making a better traffic structure. And in the right-hand side here, you see it's also a utility project. So they're also changing, they're renovating all the pipes underneath the ground, the sewer, electricity, and water pipes, and at the same time they are introducing district heating in the city center. So if we dig a little bit into the climate adaptation part of the project, here you see the project area for that is all the blue areas on the map. So it's all the streets and the parts of the roofs that are facing the streets. So we're actually, instead of letting all the water go down to the combined sewer underground, we are discharging it out onto the streets. So and we're changing the profile of the streets into a V profile. So we're making the streets work as like open sewers for rainwater. And besides that, we're also introducing a basin for the remaining water on the combined sewage system, so we have less overflows of wastewater into the ocean, and all the all the new water system we're making. We're making before we discharge the clean rainwater, we also treating it because it's not completely clean. So we're making an underground water treatment system for the rainwater. And here you see the utility project where they're in all the streets changing the electricity cables, the water cables that are the water pipes that are underneath the ground, and also the sewers where they need to be changed. And then we introduce district heating, and we it's not so easy in an old town like this to introduce a new district heating. So yeah, that's a challenge. And then we have the municipality project where we end up with a new surface, new pavement. So instead of where today they have asphalt somewhere and they have also tiles, they're changing everything to cobblestone pavement. So it fits more well into this traditional old city center. But in order to make it function as a modern city, it's flat and sawed cobblestones, so it's not wobbly when you drive on it with a wheelchair, for example. So I'm going to show you a picture of that in a few minutes. So this is it's a lot of shops and in this area. So this is like the main pedestrian streets, what they're going to look like when the project is finished, where you can see the new surface with the cobblestones, and you can also see the V profile where the water is being discharged onto the streets, and it's going into the middle of the streets where there will be a combined covered trench to take care of the small rain events. And then when we have a big cloud burst, the whole street can fill up and transport the water. And this is what it's going to look like in the secondary streets, where we're not going to have a covered trench there. We're just going to let the water flow there also in the small rain events. And to illustrate it even more, this combined project, you can see everything underneath the ground is being either renovated or changed. And this is what it's going to look like, where you can see how the water is going to be discharged out from the pipes and go out to the water. And this is what the new cobblestones are going to look like.
So
Yes.
a few key takeaways, and I can start by a few related to the legislation. So one of the takeaways, and whenever you implement some climate adaptation solution, it is vital to balance cost with benefits. And also that the level of detail of the cost-benefit analysis must somehow be balanced with the project investment. These calculations are quite time-consuming, and if you have a small project, perhaps you will take some other solution.
And another key takeaway is that a collaboration project like this with several stakeholders can lead to improved projects, but it can also make everything a little bit more complicated. But the idea here is that instead of one stakeholder is making a project 1 year and then 5 years later the other stakeholder is making a project, then here we think everything into one project. And yeah, I think that's the most important key takeaways.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jens and Jørn, for a fantastic presentation. Really interesting example, a case study. Mentioning the housekeeping items again, the presentation slides are available to download in the handout box as a PDF. And also, please continue to log your questions in the question box as well on the control panel. I will start with the first question. Could you share with us how are these solutions financed?
Yes, I think I can answer that. So in Denmark, all the utility companies are semi-public companies that are run as normal companies, but they are owned by the municipalities or the public. So they are under public regulations and may not increase the price as they like to. So if the utility company and the municipality in cooperation would like to increase the service level, they have to do all these economical calculation and send these calculation to the Danish Competitor and Consumer Authority, which is a governmental institution. And this institution evaluate the method and the quality of calculations. And if they find the calculations are done correctly and they are okay, then the utility company are allowed to raise the tariff and then implement the climate adaptation solution in the project area. So in the end, it's paid for by the consumers, but through the increased tariffs charged by the utility companies.
Thank you. Is this mandatory to do this socio-economic calculation whenever there is a new project initiated?
If the project involves an increased service level for stormwater solution, then these calculations are mandatory. However, there is one exception to the rule, which I think I briefly mentioned, that they are quite time-consuming, these calculations, and also quite costly. So if it's a smaller project where you see that it's not really worth it doing all these calculations, then you may increase the project money by 5% and then do increased service level solutions for these 5% extra cost to the project. For example, if a combined system is to be transferred into a separated rainwater system, then you may increase the price by 5%, and then you only have to make sure that it has a positive cost-benefit analysis, but it doesn't have to be the best cost-benefit analysis as these very detailed calculation will show you.
Thank you. We received a question, Jens, before you actually touched the pavement and materials. The question is, are you considering alternative concretes and pipe materials? Do you want to elaborate a bit more on this?
So the question was if we have tentative asphalt.
Do you use any alternative concrete or pipe materials, any unique materials in the project?
The idea is actually that we want to use as little piping materials as possible. So we want to use the streets to discharge most of the water, but we are going to have some underground pipes, and also when we're renovating the sewers, we're not going to dig up the pipes and then replace them with new pipes. We're going to have I don't know what it's called in English, but it's like we're streamlining them from the inside instead of digging them up.
Thank you.
I don't know if that answers the question.
This person can reach out to you directly, no problem.
Yeah.
I will continue with the next question. How are damages calculated? Is it simplified by a defined equation and quantity based on property type, or is it case by case?
The governmental institution in Denmark provides what you could call damages for normal buildings, housing, industries, and so on. So you can use these national-wide data, or if you have better local data and also more diverse local data, you are allowed to use those as well.
Okay, I think it's another question that relates to this one. When you calculate the damage in the risk mapping, how do you define the damage cost for a unit, for example, group of buildings?
It is most often done by multiplying the area of the house or the building with a cost per square meter flooded. And this cost per square meter may be diverse between shops and industries and small housing or large housing, apartments, and so on.
Thank you. There is a next question is, out of curiosity, do you know what is the return period of your 2121 50-year optimal translate into today's probabilities? I hope the question is clear.
Yeah. It's actually on one of the slides. I cannot remember exactly, but if you see the slide, you will see that the 50-year return period in 100 years from now, I'll guess it will correspond to more than 100-year event today. I think Jens will flip through the slides. Yeah, you have it here. One up, Jens. Oh yeah, okay, exactly. Yeah, it's a 50-year event in 100 years from now correspond to a 180-year event today.
Fantastic, thank you. I will take the last question. Why do you divert the water onto the street instead of making larger pipes underground?
It's because of money, and also because it's cheaper, and instead of, and also because of CO2. So it's cheaper in money and in CO2, and because we're making it as a collaboration project, some of the money that the municipality would use for changing the surfacing materials can be used by the utility company too. So it's like so they're splitting the cost.
Thank you. Fantastic. So we're at the end of our webinar. Thank you, Jens and Jørn, for a fantastic presentation. Their contact details is shown on the screen, so please feel free to reach out to them for any additional questions. There was one more question that we didn't have time to cover, which will be answered directly via email. So thanks again, everyone, for joining us today, and we will wrap up the session now. Thanks, everyone.